throwaway account here. So my wife has always been pretty average size. She is 5 foot 7 inches tall and weighs around 130 pounds. I don't know the exact number because we just don't talk about it, but she has mentioned it in the past. I do know that when I buy her clothes, she always said she was a size female 6. That helps. She was also always pretty strong as she does massage therapy and is really good at deep tissue massages. There have been times when she has massaged me and it hurt, and I'm not a small guy. About 6 months ago, she started making changes. She stopped eating junk food and joined some classes at the YMCA, like yoga and some cardio. Since then, she has lost a significant amount of weight. I don't know the exact number because the few times I've asked her, she has said, "I don't know because I don't care to weigh myself, so I just drop it." But if I had to guess, I think she has lost at least 20-25 pounds, if not more. She seems healthy in terms of energy, and her skin has really cleared up. But I have noticed some other things. I was doing laundry, which I do a lot, and her jeans are now only size 0 to 2. When she does massage therapy, she has to wash her own sheets. The other day, I heard her really struggling to carry the bag of laundry up the stairs. Yes, it's a big bag, but I have never noticed her struggling like that before, and we've been together for years. I asked her if she was okay with that, and she just said she needs a strong man to help her out and started flirting and getting intimate with me. Is she changing the subject? Which leads me to my next point. Without too much detail, she looks completely different without clothes on. She had some curves before, but now she is pretty much built like a ballerina. She says she feels great, but I recently picked her up during intercourse, and it was literally like lifting nothing. Another significant thing I noticed was when she worked on me again for a massage last week. All of the deep pressure she used to apply was gone, and I could tell she was really struggling. But if I bring it up, she gets defensive and tells me she feels better than ever, and I should be happy for her, which I am. I just worry and don't know what to do. The final straw was our dog, who likes to walk underneath our legs and nudge her head up all the time, and has done so since she was a puppy, literally lifted my wife off the ground last night. My wife laughed about it like it was funny, but I was alarmed. Our dog is part Mastiff, we think, and weighs about 85 to 90 pounds, but still, that has never happened before. I just don't know how to approach her. Every time I have, she shuts it down. I know she still gets her period and she eats meals with me, just no junk food. She has never eaten big portions, and that hasn't changed. But I'm the only one having snacks afterwards. I can't blame someone for wanting to be healthy, but I just want to make sure she's okay. We talked this weekend, and I took your advice and approached her with concern, and it definitely helped. I was pretty close on the weight loss. She has actually lost a little less than I thought. But the important thing is that she agreed to get checked out. And since I always skip my checkups, I agreed to get one too. So it's a big step for both of us. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My opinion as someone in medicine would be to just sit her down and voice your concerns to her and come at it from a physical mental health standpoint. It's hard to say over Reddit, for sure. One thing to worry about if you guys are over your 50s is osteoporosis, osteopenia, if she isn't eating enough to get her nutrients in. As someone else said, thyroid could be out of whack, but if she's trying to lose this weight, then that's less likely. Make sure she's getting all of her annual cancer screenings as well to rule out any of the big, bad, scary stuff as a cause for her weight loss too. A primary concern I would have based on all this would be a restrictive eating disorder or purging disorder, probably more restrictive based on what you have to say. She seems to not really recognize her degree of weight loss, and this has happened rather suddenly. If my math is right, her BMI has dropped quite a bit and is under 17, which is concerning enough to warrant some laboratory work, I would say. I would definitely encourage a visit to your doc about these things. Get some labs to rule out any physiologic causes, but most likely this is a behavioral pattern based on what you have said. Comment 2. Someone who is 5 foot 7 inches and a size 02 is almost certainly underweight. Being underweight doesn't necessarily mean someone is unhealthy or has an eating disorder. But the fact that she also seems weaker to me indicates that this is not healthy, and she should probably get some professional help. I'd see if she's open to seeing a doctor and nutritionist. When I was struggling with eating disorders back in my college years, I finally went to a nutritionist at the direction of my doctor, and she was very helpful for me to begin my recovery. Sometimes we think that eating the least we can and being as small as we can equals healthy. That's not true, but sometimes people won't listen unless a professional tells them that. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around after my last post. I really appreciated the support and advice you all gave me. Here's what's been happening since then. So, after we both agreed to get checked out, things took a turn. My wife's appointment was first, and she seemed pretty upbeat about it. But when she came back, she was unusually quiet. I didn't want to pry too much, but I could tell something was off. She just said the doctor told her to keep doing what she's doing because she's healthy. But then, 2 days later, I found a pamphlet for a local eating disorder clinic tucked away in her car. I didn't confront her about it because I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe she picked it up for someone else? But deep down, I knew that was unlikely. Meanwhile, my checkup went fine, but the doctor did say I should cut back on the snacks. I guess it was a wake-up call for me too, but in a different way. Now, here's where things get really crazy. My wife's best friend, who's always been a bit nosy, came over for coffee the other day. They were chatting in the kitchen, and I overheard something that made my blood boil. Her friend was congratulating her on her weight loss and asked if she was doing it for someone special. My wife laughed it off, but her friend pushed on, mentioning some guy's name I'd never heard before. I stormed into the kitchen, demanding to know who this guy was. My wife looked shocked, and her friend quickly left, but not before giving me a smug look. My wife tried to explain that it was just a joke, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. The next day, I decided to do some digging. I remembered the name her friend mentioned and found him on social media. He was a personal trainer at the YMCA, and his profile was full of pictures with women he was training, including my wife. They looked a little too cozy in some of the photos, and my heart sank. I confronted her about it, and she finally broke down. She admitted she had developed feelings for this guy, but swore nothing had happened between them. She said she started losing weight to feel better about herself, but then it became about getting his attention. I was devastated. We'd been together for years, and I thought we were happy. I couldn't believe she would do this to us. We had a huge fight, and she ended up staying at her sister's place for a couple of days. While she was gone, I couldn't eat or sleep. I kept thinking about how she had changed, how I hadn't noticed the signs earlier, and how I could have been so blind. I felt betrayed, but also worried about her health and the fact that she might be struggling with an eating disorder. When she came back, she apologized and said she wanted to work things out. She promised to cut ties with the personal trainer and to seek help for her possible eating disorder. I wanted to believe her, but trust is hard to rebuild. Just when I thought we might be able to move past this, another shocker dropped. I got a call from the YMCA about a complaint against my wife. Apparently, she had a confrontation with the personal trainer's new client, and it got heated. She was banned from the YMCA, and the story spread like wildfire among our friends and family. I was mortified. The woman my wife had confronted was actually the personal trainer's sister, who had just started working out with him. My wife had jumped to conclusions and caused a scene over nothing. It was all a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. Now, here's where karma comes in. The personal trainer, feeling guilty about the whole situation, came clean to the YMCA management about flirting with clients, including my wife. He was fired, and his reputation took a hit. My wife heard about it and realized how much she had risked for someone who wasn't worth it. As for my wife, she started therapy for her eating issues and is trying to make amends with the people she hurt. It's going to be a long road to recovery, both for her health and our marriage. Sister just moved back to town after 10 years, and I asked my husband to help her find a job at his company. But I noticed something strange at family Christmas meal. I saw my husband and sister. 8 months ago, my sister, 28 years old, moved back into town. A small backstory. She has not lived here in 10 years, as she originally left for college and never came back. We grew apart. We talked maybe once a year, and I haven't seen her physically in 4 years. I've 31 years old, been with my husband, 29 years old, for 8 years, married for 3. She has met him twice in the entire duration of my relationship with him. He's a quiet and serious man who only opens up in front of me and a few of his select friends. She was struggling to get a job here, so I thought I'd be a good person and ask my husband if he could maybe help her find a job at his company, since they work in the same type of field. Fast forward to current times, they actually work in the same department now. He's been acting more closed off towards me lately, but he claims everything is fine when I ask him what is wrong. We had our traditional family Christmas meal yesterday, and at first he tried to get out of it. This is not something he's ever tried to do, and I was very confused by this. After some convincing, he finally agreed to come along. My sister pulled him aside a few times, and they were in a very deep conversation, as if the rest of us didn't exist. When I approached them every time, they both would jump a little, and when I'd ask what they were talking about, they would say a work project that's near deadline. I was feeling a little off about their behavior, but the one thing that got me the most was at one point, he got up to go get himself another drink. She was sitting in a chair that was next to the kitchen door, so he had to pass her to go to the kitchen, and when he was near her, she put her hand up, reached towards him, and he caressed her palm and lightly grabbed her fingers as he walked past her. She looked up at him with a big smile. He looked down at her and nodded his head. As soon as he was out of sight, she turned her head towards me and smirked at me. When it was time for dinner, there was a main dining table that seats most of the guests. There was a second table that could seat an additional 4 people. She sat down at the side table, away from everyone else. I got my plate and sat down at the main table, but saw that he sat down at the side table with her. I told him there was a seat next to me, and he told me he wanted to sit where he was at. I decided to join them, and they went from actively talking to each other to just sitting in silence while we ate. I later asked him what that hand touching was about, and he said, "It's just a high five." I said it didn't look like a high five, and he said that's all it was. I've never had any reason to suspect him of cheating, but this has me feeling on edge. I've been battling with myself to investigate further. Another thing is that he doesn't focus that strongly when he and I talk. It's always just short answers and lighthearted. They were having some intense conversations where he was hanging on her every word and giving her in-depth responses. Would this make you feel like something is going on? There were several instances where they were both on their phones, texting at the same time as well, and glancing at each other sometimes. That could be nothing, but after everything else, it made me feel uneasy. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. 100% they are cheating. I would get a Ring doorbell and a couple of home cameras. Start tracking it. I would also tell your parents your suspicions. Wait until you have evidence before doing this. Start collecting all evidence you can and get a divorce attorney. I am not sure what part of the world you are in, but some places, if you can prove infidelity, you get a lot of the bargaining power in the divorce hearings. Comment 2. Time to get your stuff in order. Start proceedings, and then once that is in motion and you have finalized things legally, make sure his place of employment knows by way of anonymous communication. No harm in exploding that relationship as you walk away in slow motion facing the camera. Frick them both. Good luck. Out there is someone who won't frick you over wondering where you are. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. It's been a joyride of emotions, and I'm not sure where to begin, but here goes. After the Christmas meal, things between my husband and sister only got more intense. I noticed they were spending more time together, always under the guise of working on a project. My husband, who's usually reserved, was now always on his phone, smiling at texts that I wasn't privy to. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, I decided to confront my sister. We had a history of being competitive, even as kids. She was always the one who got away with things, while I played by the rules. I asked her point blank if something was going on between her and my husband. She laughed it off, saying I was being paranoid, but the smirk that followed told a different story. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I remembered how my husband and I met at a college party. He was the quiet one in the corner, and I was drawn to his mysterious aura. We clicked instantly, and I thought we had a bond that could withstand anything. But now, I was questioning everything. I decided to do some digging. I checked phone records, and sure enough, there were countless texts and calls between them. My heart sank. I confronted my husband, and after a heated argument, he admitted they had developed feelings for each other. He insisted they hadn't acted on them, but the trust was broken. I was devastated. I felt like I was living in a bad dream. My sister, who I had helped by getting her a job, was now the source of my pain. My husband, my confidant, had betrayed me. I couldn't look at either of them without feeling a mix of anger and sadness. The following days were a blur. I moved into the guest room and spent hours just staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my mind. My husband tried to talk to me to explain how it all happened, but I couldn't listen. I was too hurt. Then, the unexpected happened. My sister came to me, tears in her eyes, and confessed that she was leaving town. She had realized the damage she had caused and didn't want to be the reason our marriage fell apart. She apologized, saying she never meant for things to go this far. I was stunned. Part of me wanted to forgive her, but the other part was still reeling from the betrayal. The day she left, my husband and I had a long talk. We decided to give our marriage another chance. We knew it wouldn't be easy, but we were willing to try. We started going to couples therapy, and slowly, we began to rebuild our relationship. It's been 3 days since my sister left, and the house feels empty without her. Despite everything, I miss her. My husband and I are working on our issues, but there's a bittersweet feeling hanging over us. We've lost something that we'll never get back, and we're both trying to come to terms with that. The trust between us is slowly mending, but it's like piecing together a shattered vase. It might hold water again, but the cracks will always be visible. We're taking it one day at a time, and I'm hopeful for our future. But I can't help but feel a sense of loss for the relationship I once had with my sister. It's a strange mix of relief and sorrow, knowing she's gone, but also missing her presence. Boyfriend spends engagement ring money on his mom's surgery, so I propose anyway. My sister tells me to change the location, but I refuse. Throwaway, as my family has my main account. So I, 26-year-old female, am planning to propose to my boyfriend, 27-year-old male. We've been dating for 4 years now, and he's the most important person in my life. We've discussed marriage. He was very eager to propose and has been saving money for some time, I think. He's an artist and doesn't make quite as much, but he's way too proud to let me pitch in. Well, around last month, his mom had a surgery. I won't go into details, but it cost his parents quite a lot. She doesn't have insurance. I don't know why. He transferred them money from his own savings as well, but didn't tell me that. I even offered to help. That day, I found him crying in our room. He told me all this and kept on apologizing that the money he was saving for the ring had to go into helping his mom, and now he can't propose on our anniversary as he was planning to. It was so heartbreaking for me to see him like this, to be honest. I don't give a damn about that ring. I want to marry this guy, and I'd have done that in a courthouse if he'd agree. I told him all of that. But for him, things like these are important. I actually kind of yelled at him as well for worrying about the wrong reason, lol. He told me to give him some time as he wants to get me the best he can. Well, I've decided to propose on our anniversary. I'm doing it on a beach we used to visit a lot as kids, back in our hometown. I'm picking up the ring next week. Here comes my sister, 28-year-old female. She's had multiple failed relationships and still lives with our parents. She saw me looking at a ring photo when she was visiting me this Christmas, so I told her I was planning to propose at the beach. She went silent for a minute and asked me if I was kidding her. Apparently, she caught her boyfriend of 2 years with someone else on that same beach and hates that place now. I wasn't aware of this. This breakup was in September, and back then she told me he was cheating, and left her. She now wants me to cancel this whole thing and do it somewhere else. I admit, when her relationship ended, she took it pretty hard. We all liked him, and my sister was convinced he was the one, so the breakup was really bad for her. Yes, it sucks what happened to her, but I don't know why that should affect my plans. My boyfriend and I visit that place every time we're there, and it holds some importance to both of us. She's now calling me selfish and how I only want to hurt her by reminding her of that trauma. She then proceeds to talk about my boyfriend and how he can't propose and should be ashamed. I shut that down quickly and told her to drop that topic. The rest of the day, she was moody, and when she left, she was crying and called me heartless. She's now texting me and saying that me getting engaged isn't important enough and I need to change the destination. I need advice on how to deal with her. Am I really in the wrong here? All I know is I'm not changing the location, whether I'm wrong or not. I'm kind of guilty, but that's just because we've been close since we were kids, and I don't really want to hurt her. Should I comfort her or something? Or is she being unreasonable? Also, she lives with our parents, and we're close too, so cutting her off isn't an option. Edit. As some have mentioned in the comments that this proposal might be emasculating to my boyfriend, I know him, and if it was actually something I'd be taking away from him, I'd obviously never do it. We wanted to be engaged on our 5-year anniversary, and I think that's what he was guilty about, plus some stress about his mom's health. Thanks for the concern, but I know he'll love it. Edit 2. Thank you for the response, but I've seen some comments accusing my boyfriend and his parents of being immature and selfish. This is completely false. Be kind here, please. His parents are lovely people. Yes, they're financially struggling, and my boyfriend decided to help his parents. I'd have been mad if my boyfriend decided to spend his money on a ring instead of helping his mom. About the insurance thing, I only know half of the story yet, and it's not because his parents are immature. I'll be talking to him about this later on. And he didn't spend all his savings. His actual savings are separate from the money he was saving for the ring. Edit 2. Y'all, I'm proposing tomorrow. I did talk to his mom about it just to make sure I'm doing right by proposing, and she agrees. Wish me luck. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yeah, it sucks for her. Good thing your engagement isn't about her. What's next? You can't get a dog because she was once bitten by one. You can't swim because she almost once drowned. Like you've said in a comment that she's acted entitled in the past as well. This isn't your problem. She needs to deal with her feelings about this. As long as she's not causing problems like telling your boyfriend, you don't have to worry about this. Make sure she doesn't know any more than she already does. I hope your proposal goes well. Your boyfriend is really lucky. Comment 2. OP. This is neither here nor there, but just in case. If your boyfriend and his mom don't know it yet, if you don't have health insurance and are paying for medical bills out of pocket, usually just by stating that you're paying out of pocket without insurance, they can drop the bill by something like 30%. In addition, hospitals and clinics have other payment aid plans that are definitely worth looking into. Don't pay the bill in full before trying all these things out to reduce it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. Throwaway because my family knows my main account. So I was all set to propose to my boyfriend on our anniversary at the beach that meant so much to us. But then my sister threw a wrench in my plans with her meltdown over her own breakup that happened there. Despite the drama, I decided to stick to my plan. I mean, this was about my boyfriend and me, not her past relationship, right? I picked up the ring, and it was perfect. My boyfriend had no idea what was coming. He'd been so caught up with his mom's recovery and the financial strain it put on his family. He's always been the type to put others before himself, which is one of the reasons I love him so much. He'd been working extra hours on his art commissions to rebuild his savings, still feeling guilty about not being able to propose. The day before the big proposal, my sister came over to talk. She was still upset, but I could tell she was trying to be supportive. She even helped me pick out the outfit I would wear. It felt like maybe she was starting to come around. The morning of the proposal, my boyfriend was in a great mood. He'd just sold a big piece, and it was like I could see the stress melting off him. We drove to our hometown, talking and laughing the whole way. It felt like everything was falling into place. We got to the beach, and it was just as beautiful as I remembered. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything. I was so nervous, my hands were shaking. But when I looked into his eyes, I knew it was the right moment. I got down on one knee, and before I could even get the words out, he was crying and nodding. He said yes. We were so caught up in the moment that we didn't notice my sister had followed us there. She was standing at the edge of the beach, watching us with this look of shock on her face. I guess she wanted to see the proposal for herself, maybe to find some closure. But when she saw us so happy, it must have brought back memories of her own heartbreak. She stormed off, and I felt a pang of guilt. But my boyfriend, he just held me tighter. He said that while he understood her pain, this was our moment, and nothing could take that away from us. We celebrated with a small dinner at our favorite local spot. The owner, who'd known us since we were kids, gave us a bottle of champagne on the house. It was like the whole town was celebrating with us. But then, things took a turn. The next day, my sister started spreading rumors that my boyfriend had actually planned to propose to me that same day at the beach, and that I had stolen his moment. Our parents were confused, and friends started asking questions. I was blindsided. Why would she do this? I confronted her, and that's when the truth came out. It was all a big misunderstanding. My boyfriend had mentioned to her in passing that he wished he could have proposed at the beach, but he never said he was planning to do it that day. My sister had put 2 and 2 together and got 5. She thought she was defending him, but she had it all wrong. My boyfriend and I had to do some damage control, explaining to everyone that it was my idea to propose and that he was over the moon about it. It took a bit of convincing, but eventually, people started to understand. Now, we're just trying to move past it. My sister apologized, and I know she's still dealing with her own issues, but my boyfriend and I are stronger than ever. We're planning our future together, and that's all that matters. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.